Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voices of Daytime. I'm your host, Tami Goveia. And today we have in studio Maeve Quinlan, who, if you're a Daytime fan, she was on B&B for 10, 11 years as Megan Conley. And if you're not a Daytime fan and you're joining in, welcome, because that's a big deal. Daytime is what we're all about. Maeve, welcome to the show.
Tami, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm so happy to be here. And we were actually, before we started, we were talking about Deb Millman and how she introduced the two of us. And, you know, she'd reached out to me. And the years that you were on the show, I hadn't started watching B&B yet.
Yeah. Deb was my publicist during my years on B&B.
Yes.
All of them, yeah.
And so I reached out to James. We actually do a weekly recap for The Bold and Beautiful.
Oh, you do?
On Sundays. It's a live show.
Well, I've watched your show before, as I told you. But now I'm going to have to watch your recaps. Yeah.
And so I said to James, you know, I've got this opportunity to have a chat with Maeve Quinlan. He's like, oh my God, I love her. She's amazing.
Well, I love him.
You would absolutely love him. So yeah, between Deb and James and, you know, anyone on the cast or, you know, from the cast of B&B is welcome.
Just daytime. Isn't that great? I mean, and daytime in general, it's just, it's a family, you know, whether, if we don't know each other, we know of each other. And you're like 1 degree of separation from each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just there's so much kindness.
There is.
In the daytime community.
There is.
And like you said, that sense of family is really heartfelt. And it never, if you leave the show or whatever the circumstances were, that never goes away.
It never goes away.
Yeah.
It never goes away. It's a big, big family. And, you know, talking about other shows, I know I can speak for everyone that back when there were many,
yes,
and they held the Emmys in New York, that was the highlight of the year. You know, it was like the Super Bowl of our genre because we got to see everybody. You know, it just became one blended thing. You got to see the people, you know, that worked in New York, and there's lots of people coming back and forth to West Coast and to East Coast shows, and the creators were friends, producers. Everyone has such immense respect for each other.
They do. And for the work, because tis not an easy task.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's a lot, you know, and I think daytime, well, look how many movie stars have come out of daytime.
Sure.
And there's a reason. I mean, you're given all those amount of pages to memorize every single day, and they could be changed on a dime. And, you know, it's just, it's, some people say, I know, that go on to do prime time and movies and stuff. Oh, it's the greatest training ground. I can tell you it's the greatest job. I don't view it as a training ground whatsoever. I think you get better at your craft at it. And but it was my favorite years in television for sure.
So this is going to be a little interesting.
Okay.
I am fascinated by your tennis background.
Oh, you are?
Yes. Athletes in general.
You haven't seen me play lately then. Because I don't know.
I think you're a little critical.
To be desired. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted
but
you.
Just that transition of coming from, you know, an athlete's mentality and experience. And then, you know, a few years later on, you end up on Bold and Beautiful. That journey is what fascinates me.
Really?
Because I want to know, first of all, why tennis? Where's that passion come from? You clearly still have it. It will always be a part of who you are.
True.
As Maeve Quinlan, and how that translated to working on a soap opera, to your point in particular, because it's such a beast.
Yeah.
So back up a little and tell me about, you know, you were playing professionally at 16?
Well, I played in professional tournaments at 16. I kept my amateur status so that I could go to college on a scholarship. That was sort of, if you were the top in the nation in amateurs, that was sort of the path that you did. And if you were lucky enough to be able to transfer that over into playing professionally, the money we earned just went into the U.S. Tennis Association. We could keep our amateur That's why it's called the U.S. Open. That's why, it's open to amateurs, but we had to have a professional ranking. You just couldn't accept the prize money until you turned pro. It's such a great question because I get asked that all the time, kind of like tennis, but like to be so specific in your question, it's timely because we just built a house in outside the Palm Springs area in a little town called La Quinta, which we love.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I was just setting up my office, which is like the size of a closet, but whatever. I do my filming there. It's really beautiful, but it's small. And so I was having to go through all my stuff. What am I going to save? What am I going to throw out? And there was the sign, LaRue Towers. And it had a little yarn to tie it like you would have in the 70s, the hair bows at the time. Our moms would just put this yarn on. Okay, so this was the sign, LaRue Towers, was for when I played Mrs. LaRue in grade school. And my husband and I were just having this conversation. He's like, what's the significance? I'm like, well, this office is now LaRue Towers, basically. So I was at a grade school, Catholic elementary school, where everybody got a part, and I wanted to be one of the mean triplets. And I got cast as the lead, Mrs. LaRue, and I didn't want to play Mrs. LaRue, and I was terribly shy. And I hadn't really done the tennis yet. I had each summer or, just hitting around. My parents were big tennis players, and it was the 70s, so it was the time of tennis. And but anyway, that I was a shy girl, but once I went on stage, that was it. And so my love was not tennis. My first love was acting. Ever since I was little, I was always doing shows, but something about Mrs. LaRue, that was it. And but my mom had different plans for me. So the tennis was not the tennis was not a choice. It was not a choice. I was put into tennis, and she just, my mother's from Ireland. Both of my brothers are from Ireland. And you would think with the arts in Ireland, my mom would be all fired up that this Mrs. LaRue had struck some sort of, artistic chord in me. No. And also that it took me out of my shyness, which is, very common for actors to be actually, shy.
More introverted.
Yeah,
than
exactly.
Anything. Yeah.
And, but my father, who was a physician, he was the singer. He was always playing the piano, and he said, well, you can do both. No. So I went into tennis, and at a very, very rapid speed and a very rapid training, like 5 hours a day. And so my life took off in that manner, because in order to do it at a certain level, you have to devote completely.
Yeah.
And so that was it. And so at like age 10, there was no acting after that. It was just tennis. And so it was great. It was top 10 in the nation in juniors, and then went on to, as you were mentioning, I was able to play professionally, played at Wimbledon, US Open, French Open, Australian Open. And
how do you deal? You're a child.
Yeah, I kind of look back, and it was kind of crazy when I think about it. My mom, there are soccer moms now. Well, in those days there were tennis moms. So I had a tennis mom, and she traveled everywhere. And you didn't go, like, even the top, when I was growing up and I was starting off, it was Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova. Those were the big, and then Steffi Graf came up, but that was more my age group. And so nobody traveled with an entourage. Martina kind of did with her trainer and stuff like that, but it was just, you're with your parents. And so I was really lucky because my mom was great. But then when I had to go travel like to Japan, Australia on my own, I was like 18, 19, still doing the amateur tennis and playing collegiately as well. I was on a full ride scholarship to Northwestern for my tennis. And then was undefeated in the Big Ten for 2 years. I was their first All-American. And so it was, and I was that time ranked, I think, like top 130 in the world. And so it was time to transfer, and I transferred then to USC on a full ride scholarship. And we won a national championship.
You say that with such humbleness. And that's a big deal. It's, it's very competitive. Just the scholarship in and of itself is and was wildly competitive. So kudos to you.
No, thank you. We just celebrated at USC our 40th anniversary of the 1985.
40 years. What happened?
NCAA championship. It's like crazy. But yeah, so when I was at Northwestern, I had hoped to study acting, but the curriculum there was all in the afternoon. You had to be available for all the plays. I couldn't be a major. There's no way to do it with the tennis there at Northwestern. And so I was a communications major, but when I went to USC, I also had it in communications, political science for whatever reason. I just was interested in it.
We all took poli-sci.
I know, it's right. There was some, but then I minored in drama. And that's where things changed for me, because I knew after graduation, I just stuck with the tour. I think my highest ranking was 95 professionally. And then I just said, my heart's not in this. I've been doing this, as you mentioned, that graduation, I'm 22, and I'd been doing it, juggling the pro as an amateur up to that point. So I played for barely a year, and I put it down, and it helped that I got an injury. So,
oh, did you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, tore ligaments, not a big deal, but I took
if
that.
you wanted to come back, you could have, right?
I could have easily, but I ran with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ran
Yeah.
with
It was almost a gift in an odd kind of way.
Well, it was a big gift because, number one, my professor at USC, what my favorite was, she was a working actress, and she was an adjunct professor, and through her, I got my first agent. Well, that's actually not true. Let me back it up. My coach at USC got me my first agent. He was a commercial agent, and tennis came in so helpful for that.
Absolutely.
Because my first audition was for, at the time, a very famed commercial director, Joe Pitka. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I, go out for it, but it was for a tennis player, and it was a Nike commercial, and it was amazing. And then I got tennis helped me get that. So that was my first audition. I got it. I thought, ooh, this is easy. And then didn't get anything for 2 years. And then tennis came in again, and I got a Gatorade commercial. And then my professor at USC had kept in touch with me, and she said, well, you need a theatrical agent. And so she helped me get a theatrical agent. So, tennis was the pinpoint of everything. Mm-hmm. And then it all kind of fall into place. And it helped very much with rejection.
How so?
Because if I'm playing you this week at, say, I don't know, arguably Wimbledon, whatever, and I lose to you, now I got to pick up the pieces and go to the next tournament, or I got to play doubles later on, or mixed doubles. But it's like you can't sit there and wallow in it, because you got to get to the next city, next match. Yes, you have your, that was upsetting, whatever, pissed at yourself, move on. And so that really helped me, because for every job you get, it's
Absolutely.
like 100 no's before you get that one.
It's just a lesson in life to be able to do that, to just brush things off and not take it quite so seriously, even though stakes are high, especially as an athlete, and, even as an actor. Everything really counts. The stakes are really high in our minds. And you always get the feedback from people. So did you get it? What do you got coming up?
What do you have coming up next?
Yeah,
and what's going on? Oh, you didn't get it?
It's like getting married. When are you having kids?
I know.
Can we just slow it down a little?
My answer now is I'm a working actor. It's the only way I've made my living. And so be that as it may. But it's like you can't constantly keep up with what are you doing next? Yes, of course, momentum is so key in our industry. As you get older, you have, it's less, the parts are less, or it's more competitive, or whatever the case may be. So tennis was helpful very early on to be in a good headspace about it. However, initially, I got bothered a lot that we have no control in being hired. You could be the most talented person in the world. You don't look the part, you're the wrong age, your chemistry is not right. And that was a hard adjustment, because if I'm going to lose a match, it's because the player opposite me was better.
Right.
Or I didn't play well.
It's much more
sure
black
you might
and
get
white.
a bad line call here or there, but that's not going to cost you a match. And so that was hard to be like, oh my gosh, in a sport, you're either going to get the part, you're either going to win or lose based on your own talent and merit. And that's not the case.
I always thought when it comes to
With acting.
athletes, yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to athletes, I always liken them to dancers because you can't be a great athlete and be okay.
Right. Right.
You've got to be great.
Yeah.
You've got to be
You have
great.
to be mentally tough.
physically, like you've got pistons firing on every level because that's just the way it is.
Yep.
And I always thought that about dancers. Like you can't be a professional, successful dancer and just be okay.
I never thought of that. That's exactly, there's such a through line there between both of them. You know, what's interesting is that acting became so cathartic for me because you have to be tough. If you're smart, you'll keep your emotions. Well, I shouldn't say that if you're smart, because I find the most amazing players, my genre growing up, were Jimmy Connors, who wore his heart on the sleeve, and John McEnroe would be like, yeah, right. But I grew up, Chris Evert, who is now one of my best friends, but she was my idol as every little girl. We had the two-handed backhand, we had the ponytail, but she kept her emotions so in check. So I was like, okay, clock that. That's what I do. And so I was sort of acting on the court because of my practices. I would break rackets left and right and center, but I never wanted my opponent in a match to know they had gotten to me. And then, so you're really kind of buttoned up. And so when I went into acting, it was so cathartic and freeing, as I love to take roles that are so opposite of me, just so I can completely release myself in it. Anger, tears, comedy,
Revenge.
Revenge.
It's always fun.
Yeah. Those are the lifetime ones come in. So tennis was really interesting in that way. And then, and I would act on the court. So like if I was losing and I'd just act like, okay, I'm winning. It's fine. And I
kind of fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it. And my mom would always say, if I was on a front court, she's like, okay, she's going to play well. If I was pushed on a back court, she's like, uh-oh. So I guess there was Mrs. LaRue was in there trying to perform, even though I said, you're sort of buttoned up with the tennis because you don't want to show your emotions. But yeah, it was so important. And I look back now and I regret not using it more to my advantage. And by what I mean by that is crossover now, everyone crosses over. Singers can be actors can be singers. You can be an influencer on a TV show tomorrow. It's all intertwined now. That was not the case when I started off.
Right.
And I didn't want to be thought of as, oh, here comes the dumb athlete. Just, okay, now she wants to be an actress. No, I wanted to be an actress well before I was an athlete. And so it was coming home to me. But I should have used it more to my advantage. I used it to my advantage as a day job. So I taught tennis, which was great until the auditions became more frequent. And then I had to cancel on people. I felt bad about that. So I ended up doing that on the weekends and working at a clothing store that my friend was a manager of and would let me out for auditions.
The actor's life.
Yeah. But I wish now I had used it more to my advantage because when I realized how many producers and, how many people in the industry, particularly at that time, were playing tennis, it was silly for me to just kind of, my athletic background, let's not talk about it. Yeah. I constantly wanted to be known that I had really worked hard at it, that I had studied at USC. I had a great acting coach, still do, Ivana Chubbuck, that I trained hard. And
you wanted to be taken seriously.
I did. I wanted to be taken seriously. And so I wish I hadn't shied away from it. And so much so that I forget that I was an athlete, honestly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I stink now too. So there's
well, not just from a competitive standpoint, but
I love to hit and I love to play. I play with my husband. I play with some of my closest girlfriends. The girls when I was on the tour with, we'd rather go grab a glass of wine, or as my husband calls it, cougar juice, Chardonnay, and catch up, or we go hiking or yoga. Well, I'm not very good at yoga, but I go with my girlfriends that do, and we catch up in different ways. But I do like drilling and hitting the ball. I don't like anything to do with competition.
Did you ever?
Oh my God, I get so nervous over it. Yeah, and I wouldn't be able to sleep for nights. Like, yeah, it was total performance anxiety.
Yeah.
But then I would somehow be able to channel that into the match, and then once I got on the court, I was good. Sort of, again, like an actor, having, being stage fright, and then you get on, and then you're just in the zone. But yeah.
One thing you said about Chris Everett teaching you control the emotions.
Yeah.
I have to ask, how much of that was women shouldn't behave crazy and erratic?
Oh, I never thought about that.
And how much of it was, well, no, if you want to just stay in the zone, and here are the benefits to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because looking back, men in tennis have been given a lot of leeway to have the tantrums and the high emotions, and it's changed for women.
Yeah, it has
absolutely
changed.
has changed.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking back when you were playing.
Yeah, I never thought about that there was a lot of showmanship at that time. And I'll just speak about Chris Evert. Part of the attraction of Chris Evert was that she was one of the first, like, very feminine athletes as far as tennis was concerned, really. And so her ladylikeness was part of the showmanship, and the yin and the yang with Martina, who I absolutely love, from Czechoslovakia. There's America's Sweetheart playing it. And then she was more emotional, but even Martina herself too then started to be, I think it was more of a mental toughness. I didn't think about that women couldn't be that way. And I don't know that people at the time did either. I mean, I see what you're saying, because Serena's
Being taken seriously.
Oh yeah. Well, being taken seriously.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you have to fight harder for sure. I think so, as a woman.
The not liking the competition,
Yeah.
making it, very nervous.
Yeah.
How did you make it work with acting? Were you not as nervous? Was it a different kind of nerves?
It was a different kind of nerves. Yeah, I can't explain it. I felt more freedom. I felt more freedom because, as I said to you earlier in this talk we're having, was that I didn't like the fact that I had no control over whether I got the part. I mean, I could do everything I could possibly do to get it, but at the end of the day, it's someone else's decision based on sometimes nothing to do with what you prepared
Moods.
for. Yeah. And so I feel like when I got to the place that I was a professional actor, that I was working, I had to really think, well, how did I get to this place? And it was that I just let go. I completely let go. Like, I just completely immersed myself. I didn't care what happened. I was happy to make a fool of myself. That's just also hours and hours and hours of classes and training and getting up there and making mistakes. And I think in failures, I became more confident, if that makes any sense.
Sure, you allow yourself to fail.
I
and realize it's part of the process.
Yeah. And in a sport, you can really get down on yourself after and you can get into a rut. And it can be a really hard and deep hole to get yourself out of mentally. I would go into slumps and then come out of it and be better than I was before. But certainly in acting, I think that we learn so much by our failures of what hasn't worked, taking the rejection, understanding where it comes from when it's given to you. And there's great feedback that, okay, you didn't get it because this, in your technique was not good. Meaning, for a while, no one thought of me for comedies. I wasn't funny. And all my friends in life were like, wait, you're so funny. You said, like, I didn't know really how to do comedy. Yeah, I didn't know I was just pegged into drama and loved it. But now I love comedy.
You can do comedy. It's like soap opera. If you can do comedy, you can do anything. Yeah. I've always considered it
really more difficult.
Much more difficult.
It is more difficult.
Much more difficult. So then The Bold and the Beautiful presents itself.
That was my huge break.
So you got the audition, or how?
Well, actually, what happened was very quickly, my brother in Chicago was friends with a very important, he was the celebrity, I don't even know what to say, like he had the Sun Times section, but he did all the press junkets. Bill Zwecker, he's renowned nationally. And they worked together, and Bill said, you said your sister's out in LA. I should have her meet with the Bells. And because they're a Chicago family. And at the time, Lee Phillip Bell and Bill Bell Sr. were still running the show. And because of Bill Zwecker, I got a general with Lee. And
So did that make you more nervous as opposed to saying getting the audition and going in?
Yes.
Because generals can be tricky.
Yeah, they are.
They're a different energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the irony is I had a girlfriend, a friend that I knew back in Chicago when we were in high school. We had gone to a couple dances together. Our boyfriends at the time knew each other. Unbeknownst to me, she's the one that took my headshot and put it much more higher up in the pile for the generals. So I have her to thank for that. And she knows who she is. And so it was sort of things, lined up. And I went in for my general. But with the irony about that general with Lee Bell was when I was a little girl. And if I was home from school, I would watch this. She looked like Doris Day on television in Chicago. She had her own show. I must have been 6 years old or something. I just remember being very, very young, maybe like first or second grade. And she, in retrospect, when I look back at the show, she was interviewing politicians, everything. I was just amazed at her because there was no woman on television at that time that looked like that. So I had been watching Lee Phillip Bell as a little girl, saying someday I'm going to be like her. She looks like Bewitched and she looks like Doris Day. And here I am sitting with her. So I did tell her the story.
Did you? I was just going to ask.
Which was a great icebreaker. And then she introduced me to Christy Dooley, their casting director, who's still there now. Amazing casting director, and sat with her. And then she brought me over to the Young and the Restless casting. But it was Christy Dooley that followed up and called me in. And it was for an under 5 part. I was a waitress getting somebody's order for a hamburger. I didn't get the part. I should have been working in restaurants, not in clothing. I didn't get the part. But what I did do was Christy Dooley was doing acting classes, these intensive seminar, for the daytime on-camera acting. And I went to hers. I went to Mark Teschner's.
He's a gem.
Isn't he, though?
I love the fact that you've brought up the casting directors because they're so underrated and not valued the way they should be.
Yeah. Like now they finally are up for an Oscar award. Thank God.
Yes.
But it's like, where are the Emmy Awards? They are unbelievable. So I did get booked then. Christy Dooley booked me. I was a flight attendant, number 2, I think. And then a couple of years later, the part of Megan came along, and it was supposed to just be one day. And meanwhile, Mark Teschner, I did an under 5 for him too, and learned so much from those two.
Yep.
I cannot even explain it. And I love that you know what I'm talking about. Incredible.
And they don't teach soap opera acting.
No, they don't.
Because there's no such thing.
There's no such thing. Exactly. They teach on-camera acting, and it was the best training. And
they love actors.
They are
it makes
rooting.
A huge difference.
It really made me realize, because you go and talk about, you were saying about performance anxiety for me on going out the tennis court. Oh God, here we go. I do get that before an audition for sure. Less so now because there's done, you just send in your reel, or you send in your video.
Yeah.
And, but I would get so, taking from them also, maybe they're rooting for you. They have a problem to solve. They say this all the time. We have a problem to solve. We want you to get the part. And so it was, but the techniques, everything that I learned from them, that helped me so much. Anyway, so then after all that, the part of her name was Brenda initially, came up, and it was supposed to be one day. And this time I was ready for it. And I got it. And then they brought me back. Oh, we're going to bring you back for 2 more. They changed my name to Megan. And then it lasted, like you said, 11 years, just shy of 12. And it was the best. The best. I learned so much on that show. Greatest family, the Bells family, Brad Bell, Colleen, everyone, but also Laura Lee, Bill, Maria, all of them. But it's the family that they built on that show, and it starts from the top and it goes down to the crew, to the cast. It was so great. And I took everything I learned from being on that show and brought it with me to other shows. Because after that, I went to a show called South of Nowhere. And I told those kids that it was myself, Rob Moran. We played the husband and the wife, and it was a teen drama, kind of like 90210. But we were nominated for GLAAD Awards and everything. It was because the topics were really, my daughter comes out as a lesbian. My African-American son, he impregnates his girlfriend. My high school son on that show, he gets addicted to drugs. I don't care about the baby. I don't care about the drugs. All this character that I had to play, Paula Carlin, was zoomed in is that my daughter was gay. It was the hardest role for me to play because I have so many gay and lesbian friends. But
so
that was super rewarding. But I brought the to the kids, not to get to segue into my part there, but I brought this to the kids that were playing, the high school kids, and they were like 21, 22, 19. I was just said, listen, all met in our trailer, like, we are a family. We stick together. We don't stab each other in the back. We have a problem. We come to each other. We are family, and you treat this crew like your family as well. And they thanked me at the end of, like, thank you so much. After the 4 years of it were over.
It changes the dynamics.
And I got that from the Bells. Yeah.
When you can do that. It forms a connection.
Yeah.
And when you've got that connection with your fellow actors and the crew and what have you.
Yeah, because you
how
feel
magic
safe.
is made.
Yeah, that's how magic is made.
Yes.
I know. I don't know why people are difficult on set.
I don't either.
Why would you? We have the most dream job. We get to do this and make money. Most people would do it for free.
And it just takes so much more energy to be.
I know. I think I've decided it's just highly insecurity. It's just going to be insecurity. Highly insecure people.
When you said that in that show, your daughter is gay, and it was the most difficult because you have, you don't have an issue with that in your own life.
Yeah, my
right?
character was type A, and she was a surgeon, Irish Catholic, very conservative, church-going character.
So there was some familiarity then.
So there was super
that you could get into that character and understand.
Her whole profile was me. Her beliefs were not.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about daytime, the storylines come on.
Oh yeah.
Believability. You got to find that believability. Right. Suspension of disbelief is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
You got to be able to find the end that resonates with you.
I did a lot of research because I was mentioning that I do have a lot of gay and lesbian friends, and some of my closest lesbian friends, I'm like, you got to talk to me about what it was like, what age when you came out, how was it? And most had difficulty. I don't want to speak for all, but it was not their dad coming out it was to their mom, because their mom had all these dreams for them, getting married in the white gown and the sorority house or whatever it might be. And they're fearful, or they think that they've done something.
They don't want to disappoint.
I know.
Yeah, it's tough.
And so my character was, it was really, that part was super hard to play because that's not the type of family I come from.
So what was Megan like? What was that character like?
Oh, very nice. Almost to the point of boring.
There's not a lot that I was able to find.
Yeah,
but there were a couple of episodes with you and
Katherine Kelly Lang.
Joseph.
Oh,
Mascolo.
that was great. Yes.
And so I have to ask you.
Yes.
He was just, I know him primarily from Days of Our Lives.
Yes.
The Demira patriarch. What was he like to work with?
Oh, he was amazing. So that was great for me.
Talk about an acting class.
I know.
Right? Just working with him.
my part as Megan, I'm Brooke's best friend, so I was the executive assistant, but I was her best friend. I knew where all the bodies were buried. I knew when Ridge was walking in and Thorne's walking out, or Deacon, and I was cleaning up all, no pun intended, because there's just seeing people talk about all sorts of messes. But that was my role, and I loved it, and it was great. And I love Katherine Kelly Lang. We are still friends to this day, and so that was
beautiful.
So that was great.
She's such a beautiful soul.
What I did love about, and thank you for asking about it, was this Massimo, because Megan got to be bad for once, and it was
right.
So
it was a
good.
secret.
Yes,
no one had could know
we
about
had
your
an affair.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
And there's a knock on the door. It's Jack Wagner's.
Jack Wagner.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's his character? Nick.
It's Nick. He was great to
and
work
you've got to
with,
go
yeah.
scurrying out the side door. I was laughing, but you had it down. It's like, okay, clearly Megan's done this before. There's a knock. I know where to go.
Yeah, exactly. Megan
the
knows
emergency exits are located.
Megan's like, oh, there's trouble. Radar is on. That was super fun, and it was so great that Brad gave me something to really be different for Megan. So at that point, he had asked me to come back. I had gone off to do South of Nowhere, and he called and said, "When's your hiatus? I'd really like to come back. You to come back and kind of sew this up, because I went up in an elevator and never came back down for no reason other than
that happens with staircases too in daytime.
Well, I had been on contract, and we were, I think it was now I was recurring and negotiating next contract, and then South of Nowhere came along. So they were great about it. They're like, no, go do it. And then he did give me the opportunity to come back, and then he gave me such a juicy role to play. So that was great. Joe was amazing. He was so kind. He was so sweet. The scenes were originally written that we were going to be more physical together, and that just sort of just like, we can indicate that. And he was just he was just darling. We can start the scene like as if we've just made mad, passionate love. I'm like, oh, thank you,
Being the
Joe.
professionals that
Thank
you are.
Thank you. So we're just going to start the scene putting on the clothes. Okay, got it. No, he was lovely, and you're right, like a master class. And it was a big deal when he came over. We were really excited. And Jack Wagner, I know, is back on the show now. So
can't
that's
wait.
exciting.
I think he debuts again in June, beginning of June.
Yeah.
And I'm just beside myself.
Yeah.
But I know his work from General Hospital.
Of course, so did I. Frisco and Felicia.
Yeah.
I had a big crush on him.
And All I Need, the song.
I know. I went to a concert all by myself. I had my mom drop me off because I don't want to tell Jack this. We were close, but yeah, none of my girlfriends were going to, like, I don't know what other concert, and I was like, I have to go. So
I was
my
like
mom
that
sat in the parking lot
with
read
Rick
a
Springfield.
Book. Yeah,
as a kid, I think.
Yeah. Oh,
I think I went.
Springfield.
Yeah, I think I went to like 4 of his concerts.
Yeah.
And now my husband continues the tradition. Like every time there's a concert, he will get tickets. Like, thank you so much.
So great. It's so great. Oh my gosh! And I think about all the people that sing that were singers on Bold and Beautiful. Whether it be Ron Moss or Jack, and Windsor sings.
Tell me about Ron.
Oh, I love Ron.
I know.
I love Ron. Last time I saw him, we had an engagement party in LA for my husband and I are now married now, but it was right before COVID hit, and that's the last time I saw him. And he and his wife came, and oh my God, I just love him. Just the sweetest. Yeah. Everyone on that show is the sweetest.
I mean,
and then of course Jennifer Finnigan and I are best friends. So
Torsten, who plays Ridge now, he's phenomenal.
Yes,
but when you grow up watching Ron Moss, as
I mean,
Ridge,
that's Ridge. I'm sorry, no offense, because
I agree.
I mean, the performance of Ridge now is great. It's great, but yeah. And then Windsor. I loved working with Windsor. We had a little storyline for a second. That was originally going to go romantic, and then it didn't. He went off with Darla, which I think was a smarter sort of fit at the time. But yeah.
I have to spend some time talking about KKL, Katherine Kelly Lang.
Yes, please. Love her.
I had an opportunity when Ben Hart opened here in LA. I was able to cover the opening of it. And so I met her mother, who is just one of the most beautiful souls on this planet. And
I've never met her mom.
Well, Kelly gets her generosity of spirit
Really?
definitely from her mom. I don't know very much about her father, except he was an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
But her mother, the soul and the spirit, the light, then that's what Kelly is.
Yeah.
That's just who she is.
Always like that. Always just.
And I've asked her, like, how do you do you? Because this is just who you are.
And it's unbelievable. And the camera goes on, and then she just goes right into Brooke.
The emotional accessibility.
Nobody cries better than Katherine Kelly Lang.
And looks as beautiful.
Oh my God, she looks stunning.
It's not an ugly cry.
I'm an ugly crier.
Me too.
I'm really ugly, really ugly crier. Really bad. I got to work with Morris Chestnut in a feature film called Not Easily Broken. And so I was so excited to get to kiss him. But in the scene, I'm bawling, crying because my son has just died. And there was literally, not to be disgusting, but there was like snot. And I was just like, I get to do this. And this is a freebie. This is Morris Chestnut. And I am bawling, crying, and I'm ugly crying. And oh yeah, no, she cries beautifully. She does everything beautifully. And she's quite the equestrian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We both lived up Topanga at a certain point at the same time. And just the love. She's just a California girl. It's funny, when I was at USC, I was graduating in 87. The show started in 87. And the following year, I was back training with the team. It was the year that I was playing pro, and then got my injury. And I was like, yes. Anyway, my girlfriend was in my sorority. She had moved out into an apartment with her sister, and she was staring at lunchtime. I come back, and she says to me, she's like, "You have to be on this show. You have to quit tennis, and you have to be on the show. I'm obsessed with this show." And it was Bold and the Beautiful. And so I can't tell you, when I walked through the halls that first time to have that general, and then have my meeting with Christy Dooley and seeing all the cast, it was, and CBS Television City, where it's just, I grew up on Sonny and Cher and Carol Burnett.
Legacy.
I mean,
yeah.
All in the Family. It's like a pinch me moment. It was my own little version of going to Wimbledon. It was like a pinch me moment. I couldn't play. I played horribly at Wimbledon just because I was overwhelmed by the whole thing, and I don't play well on grass, but it reminded me of that moment. Like, oh my God, I'm in this building, and I was just so delighted that it worked out, that I got to be on the show, and to be on those many years was just such a blessing.
Well, you have a huge fan base. I know, and people say this when they work in daytime. It's such an insular environment.
Yeah.
You go in, you're doing the work.
Yeah.
You go home, you memorize 50 pages, and you start all over again.
Yeah.
And which is one of the reasons we do the recap for The Bold and Beautiful, is because it allows fans to
pick up.
Yeah. And a lot of the folks that we've interviewed just are so appreciative, because the feedback is always, fans can get a little cray-cray.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, the support of the fans is why.
It's the why in everything, and particularly, as you're saying, the fan base for The Bold and Beautiful is unbelievable.
It's global.
Because it's global.
Yes.
They're the number one watch show in the world. There's no other show. Like, that's why I can't even, it's countless how many countries they're in. I don't even want to give the stat, but it's well over 100 something.
So what did you walk away with? What's one of the jewels when you left the show that you walked away with that you hold dear?
I really think that how you behave and are on set, and how you are with your crew, and how you are, and grateful to casting to give you the job, grateful for your bosses for giving you the job, just gratitude. I would say that's the biggest that I got for it, just absolute gratitude. And I still have it to this day. I would come back in a second if they asked me, for sure. Daytime, I miss daytime a lot. Yeah. And still have many friends, some friends over at General Hospital, and really actually a producer friend of mine. And I just like, who gets to do that for so long? Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. When you see folks like Jeannie Francis and
I mean,
40 years. And
we're a fan of each other's, you know, like
yeah.
I'm just saying when we see each other, like, oh God, you so admire their work and yeah, the gratitude for sure.
I want to touch on one more thing before we wrap up. So funny. We just saw Polar Opposites.
Oh gosh.
Probably a couple of months ago.
Okay.
And I didn't know who you were.
Uh-huh.
And I love the actress. I'm probably Rhiannon.
Yes.
Fish.
She's amazing.
She's lovely.
Yeah.
You know, we'd seen her in a couple of other
Yeah,
Hallmarks.
she's done a lot of Hallmark
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So it's like,
Beautiful.
oh, we love her. It's got to be good. So
Yeah.
we started watching it. And your character comes in, it's probably halfway.
Yeah, definitely.
A little
I
past
had worked
halfway.
with the producer on another show, which was a Lifetime, and he did, not to interrupt you, but
No, it's okay.
he said, you might not want to come and do this. It's not, it's not one of the top 2 leads, but we're going to shoot in Patagonia. And I thought, well, that's awesome. And he said, it's going to be over November. He tells me the dates. And I was turning 60. And I said, I'm doing this movie and I am going to wake up on my 60th birthday in Patagonia. My husband's like, wait, we had all these other plans. I said, no, I'm going and I don't care how little the part is. But yes, like I think I come in about halfway through.
And I have to say, because I turned 60 this year.
You're not 60.
Well, you're not 60. Okay.
You are not.
And I remember seeing your character and thinking, okay, why is it taking so long for this demographic to appear? And now she's here. And it really got my mind spinning because we love Hallmark.
I love
we
Hallmark.
love Hallmark.
Yeah.
And good experience?
Lovely experience. I haven't worked for them in very long time. So I was talking about gratitude. I was so grateful to be back. And David Boyles is the producer that I had done My Father's Murder in Greece the year before. And he was doing this Hallmark movie, Polar Opposites. And so I said, wherever you are, I'm there. I can't wait to be there. And he does like to speak to that demographic too. It's, it's a lovely bee story. But do you know who I think was the best on the
Penguins?
I am Polar Opposite. No, not the Penguins, but Dean McDermott.
Yes.
He was the best.
Yes.
He was the best. I'd never met him before. And we just connected right away. And I just thought he played the father role so lovely. What a heart of gold. He's such a nice person.
Yeah, the relationship
and then
between
we had
yeah.
we had a nice little, it worked. The chemistry worked well. It did on set. And I love his girlfriend and we had such a good time there. But he made that really, I think he brought the heart and soul to that movie for sure.
There was
and the Penguins.
Yes. But one of the things I loved about your character is
Peg.
She runs the show.
Yeah, she does.
And
run
she
the
runs
show.
him.
Mm-hmm, she does.
But it's not in a heavy-handed way.
Yeah.
Nothing Peg did was heavy-handed.
Yeah. There's just out of care.
Very buttoned up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kind.
Yes.
With everyone, especially when what is Rihanna's character's name? When she shows up,
I forget now.
Just this little thing that's been a stowaway on the ship. And I'm
And
looking for
she's
my father.
Yeah, she's running in.
Right.
She's all the snows.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was such a great moment because Peg was just so kind and understanding.
Yeah, she was I liked Peg.
Multifaceted though. You kudos to you because you could tell that there were so many layers.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to do something, trying to make something of something that could have been on paper just flat. And
absolutely.
I was trying to make it sort of, and she did run the show. She ran the show so much that props had me in one scene. Must have had 15 keys on me. I'm like, am I the janitor, a baker? Am I the cook? Like, I think I managed the place but now I've got all these keys. So first of all, you couldn't do it with sound. So those came off, but I was like, I guess I just run the show. And they're like, you run the show, you run it. Everyone knows Peg runs the show. Yeah.
I'm really hoping that you'll do more.
Thank you. Please. I hope I am. I hope I will too.
Please.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
what are there any goodies coming up for you project-wise? That
I do have a couple things that have come my way that are in development. One is for a director that I had been involved with the project before, and so I can't really talk much about it. That prior project fell through, so I'm so lucky to be working with her. She's written it, and I love working with female filmmakers. So that's on the horizon. I do have a Christmas movie that producing wise I'm attached. Jonathan Silverman's attached. Hoping to get Jennifer Finnigan attached.
Nice.
I even said I'll bow out of the lead female. Let's go younger. Have Jen Finnigan. So we'll see. That's called Salvation Christmas, and that is a great film about second chances. So we are presently pitching that. And other than that, waiting for that phone to ring. I guess.
Yeah, but
they
it's
say
all
you're not
good.
supposed to, but I guess I am. We've been, we also, my husband and I we only just got married 2 years ago. We're coming up on our second wedding anniversary, and we eloped to Ireland, and my family's from Ireland, and so we've been just doing the kind of 2-year. Love can happen later in life. We're doing the honeymoon still thing, and we're nesting, as I was mentioning to you before we went on camera. We're building a house outside of Palm Springs and La Quinta, and of course a place here, but we also live in Chicago. So I've been keeping really busy, but dying to get back on set. So we'll see.
Where can people find you on the socials?
Very difficult to find me. No, Maeve Quinlan. Just Maeve Quinlan, at Maeve Quinlan everywhere, but you got to spell it right. MaeveQuinlan. It's always interesting. The obvious name to mess up is Maeve. A lot of people put the E before the A, but it's Maeve. But it's when they spell Quinlan with an I-N. That's the one that gets me. I'm like, it's Quinlan. You got Maeve right, but you couldn't get Quinlan? Yeah. So anyway.
Well, it's been just so lovely again.
And we got to get you to Ireland. You were saying that you
we actually brought that up beforehand. Yes,
got to get you to Ireland.
I'll pick your brain when that does happen.
Yes,
because it just saves so much time in regards to landing and going. Okay, now
no.
What are we doing? Yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay.
You call me. Yes. My family's over there. I will know exactly what you need to do.
I'm actually going to do one of those ancestry.com whatever to see how much of a percentage I am.
Yeah.
Irish-wise.
Because do you know what county or you?
I don't.
No, okay.
I don't. My grandparents came over and settled here in Delaware, in the States. So I don't know anything about the whole European side.
I'm the only American born in our family. And my mom was one of 8 and all my cousins, but my brother lives there and all my nieces and nephews and now my grand nieces and nephews.
Oh
my goodness. And I'm a dual citizen, so
that's what I'm kind of
so
peeking my nose
you need
into.
to do it.
Yeah.
You need to do it.
Okay, good.
Sure.
This is inspiration. Want to sign off. Everybody who's watching this, we have our audio podcaster listeners as well. Thank you for joining Voices of Daytime. Thank you for your support. This interview will be dropping on JLJ Media. Again, thank you. Thank you, Maeve.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun. I could have talked
did
forever,
too.
as you can see.
Until we meet again.